Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on behalf of ACT in support of this four-year term bill. And I want to start by conceding that I suspect we're on a hiding for nothing when this bill goes to referendum. And the simple reason is that this is a time when around the world people's trust in politicians is in decline, and yet what people will see is politicians asking to be trusted for an extra year. I think that's why it's on a hiding to nothing, but I'm proud to be supporting it, and I'm proud to have had some involvement in the creation of this bill because I believe it is the right thing to do for New Zealand. And I'm thinking about a time when I'm not a politician, perhaps when the voters have retired me, and I'll be living my life, and I would rather live in New Zealand with a longer parliamentary term. And the simplest reason for that is that I believe we need more stability. We're an outlier globally. There's about 180 countries that have some form of parliament. We're one of 9 that has a 3-year electoral term. And it's not just 3 years to 4, because as Paul Goldsmith mentioned, with election campaigns and the bedding in and establishment of new governments, 3 years is really 2 of effective debate and policy making and thinking. So if we go to 4 years in total, we're really going from an effective 2 years to an effective 3 years. It's not a 33% increase, it's a 50% increase in the effective length of a government. And I think that's critical for reasons that other members have touched on, from as parties as diverse as the National Party and the Greens, have said, actually, we need to give more stability for developing things like infrastructure, for making policies, giving people confidence, whether they're from inside New Zealand or outside New Zealand, that this is a place with a stable policy environment to invest in. In many ways, it is about our maturity as a country. I think our current constitutional setup could perhaps unkindly be described as a sort of teenage setup. We have no upper house, we have no states or provinces, we have no written constitution. What we have is this 3-year term, and it leads to erratic lawmaking. But there's a second part to this proposal which I think is important, and that's why I've called it in the past a 4-year term with a twist. It also involves changing the way that this place operates to be slower, more accountable, more sober, and ultimately a better place to make laws with more participation from all of the people in this chamber, not just those who are ministers. And that change is simply to ensure that most of the time the opposition will be running the select committees, the smaller versions of Parliament that scrutinise new laws, that call in public officials to hold them accountable, that can run inquiries. That will be run by opposition, while the government will still have a majority in this chamber and make the ultimate laws. And the effects of that, I believe, will give more voice to New Zealanders through their elected representatives, because select committees, and committee of the whole House stages for that matter, will be more of a contest with more debate about policy, with more voice. I believe it will also improve the esteem of parliamentarians, because in some countries, to be a member of Parliament is a very respectable thing. Here people really want to become a minister. I think having backbench MPs with more power in this place will actually be good for the esteem of the profession and ultimately the quality and competence of people who join it. No offence to anyone currently here. I think that if we're prepared to have a mature discussion about this change, then we will lead ourselves to a place where we have a more stable policy environment, a higher quality of debate, people feeling that their voices are heard better through stronger select committees, more trust in our democracy, and ultimately the progression of what might be called a teenage constitutional country into maybe just a young adult with a bit more surety and confidence in itself, more stability, more investment, more infrastructure, higher wages, and ultimately a country that we can be even prouder of. I'm glad so many parties are supporting this bill, and I look forward to supporting it further. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.